So if your rating is between 600 and 1200, your opponent might have played London system against as a white, right? So today we are learning how to play London system. That is the most aggressive opening as a white. And the system is like you have to do the same system every time, no matter what black plays. So let's get started. Okay, so London system starts with a d4, opponent plays d5, and now we bring out our bishop to an active diagonal f4. Opponent develops a knight to f6. We go e3, developing a pawn and activating a line for the bishop. Opponent goes e6, then we go knight f3, and now opponent tries to go bishop to d6, like trying to take out our active diagonal. Now we can still continue our attack by going to knight to e5. Now your opponent will go c5, like striking in the center, breaking our pawn chain. Now then we can go bishop to b5, a check. Now this is already a losing arrow. If your opponent tries to block with a bishop, we can simply capture with a knight. Knight takes knight, and then we can capture our bishop, right? So still we are now pawn up. But let's just go back. Let's suppose your opponent first take out the bishop, then we can take this knight with a discovered check, and in fact it's a double check, so pawn cannot take it. So it's a double check, so king will move. So king goes here, then we can capture this bishop. Pawn takes knight, and then we can also capture this pawn also. So now the pawn structure has been ruined. The king cannot do castle. On the and very next move, we can just simply castle, develop a knight, and bring out our queen. So life is good. Now let's suppose if your opponent doesn't go to the d6 and instead of goes bishop to e7, then we can just simply develop our bishop, like we can continue our develop by bishop to d3. Now if your opponent goes c5, and now we don't want to bring out our bishop back, like we will go again c3. Opponent castles here. Now we bring out our last minor pieces, that is knight bd2. Opponent goes b6, aim to fianchetting the bishop. Then we can just simply go knight to e5. Opponent goes bishop to b7. Now, if now we want to lift our queen to the f3, like queen to f3, in order to go to the h3 and do a simple checkmate like this, right? Okay. Now opponent goes bishop to d7, and we go queen to h3 as we planned. Now there are three different variations, like if your opponent goes to the h6, then we can just simply sack our bishop like this, and now our queen takes h6, and now the opponent's king is exposed, right? Let's just go back, and if now knight takes knight, then we can take a pawn, we can take the knight with a pawn, and now this, if knight goes to the d6, d7, then it is still a simple checkmate, right? But let's suppose if the knight goes to the e4, then we add one more attack on the knight. Now this knight has been trapped, right? If your opponent goes here, we can just simply take a knight, pawn takes knight, bishop takes knight, and now we are upper material, right? Let's go again back. Let's suppose now opponent just take the knight, then we can still do a checkmate like this, right? Now let's see if opponent goes to g6 and doesn't fall for the h6 or knight takes e5, right? Then we can go bishop to h6 order to gain rook. Opponent saves a rook, and now the normal games continues from here. We can go f4 over protecting a knight, and now the normal game continues from here. Now instead of fianchetting the bishop, let's suppose opponent goes knight to c6, then we can go knight to e5. If your opponent takes a knight to e5, then the opponent is like gone. We can take it, d takes e5. Now this knight cannot go here or here because the queen will take it. So the knight goes on the d7. Then we can start pushing the h4 here. And now as you can see here, we have opposed our castle, like we have delayed our castle just because we want to castle at the queen side and we want to push at the king side, right? So now after h4, let's suppose your opponent goes c4. Now we can directly sack our bishop, like bishop takes h7, king takes h7, now queen h5 check. Okay, king to g8, and now our idea is to go knight f3 and then knight to g5, right? Now our idea is to simply do a checkmate like this. So we will continue like this, knight to f3. Now your opponent will stop it by going to pawn to f6. Like if we go, the pawn will take it. Still we will go knight to f6. Pawn takes g5. H takes g5, and now there is a still checkmate like this. Now opponent takes a bishop, queen to h8 check, king goes to the f7, g6 check, king takes, and now that's how you do a checkmate, and that's how you play London system. So this is how you play London system. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like and subscribe to the Answers Academy, and do follow on Instagram at the Answers Academy. Signing off.